Chapter 166. At the sound of my shouting, the eyes of a mysterious color resembling the blue sea of Avenox blinked a few times. Then he clenched his fist and shouted, I want to take responsibility. Really? Yeah, actually, I wanted to convey that today, so I brought this too. Avenox pulled a small box out of his arms. Inside was a ring of pearls shimmering in white brilliance. It was as beautiful as any jewel, but not gold. It was a perfect ring for Avenox, a seaman, to propose to a warm person like Lorraine. When I stopped talking and stared at the ring, Avenox seemed to take it in a slightly different sense. I'm in a hurry, so that's all I'm going to do now. But I'm going to officially set up a set of proposal rings later. A wedding ring set? What's that? It's a custom. The man in the East has 12 rings ready and proposes. If a woman accepts the proposal, she will wear a different ring every month for a year and then have a wedding, Avinox said, looking down at one ring he had prepared with a sullen face. I could have stopped by any jewelry store and prepared 12 rings, but I didn't want to propose to Lorraine that way. That's why I chose the most fitting of the Lumen family's treasures in the townhouse of Capital. Avinox's shoulders gradually drooped down. After all, you're not coming out today. I'm so sorry that I hit him with the book of poems a while ago. I comforted Avinox's shoulders and sat opposite him. When did you hear the rumor about Lorraine's marriage? My brother, Lignite, told me this morning. He said there are already rumors in the capital. I didn't even know he knew I was dating Lorraine. Lignite would have known for a long time. He's not as professional as Bate brings me information, but he's doing something similar next to Perez. Avinox sighed again to the ground. Is Lorraine all right? It was a weak voice. Sir Avinox, aren't you angry? His loved one is having a marriage conversation with someone else while dating him. To be honest, I would be a little angry, but Avinox shook his head. I know that Lorraine is grieving more than I am now, but how can I be angry? Avinox's weakly smiling face that said so was so similar to Lorraine's. Now the two are more concerned about each other. Rather than my sadness and pain, wouldn't it be difficult for the person itself? It's a pity that they're suffering from cold chest pain from far away. I have something for Sir Avinox. I opened the book of poems I had in my hand. The bookshelf opened and a neat, beautiful letter envelope hidden in it appeared. It's a letter from Lorraine. She asked me to deliver it to Sir Avinox, and I came. Ah, Lady Lorraine. Avinox took the envelope from me and didn't read it right away. He's just patting the part with Lorraine's neat handwriting on it, saying, Dear Avinox, with a smile on his face. Sigh, this time a sigh come out of me. What are you going to do because you're both so nice? Those are the people who will do whatever they want to benefit. I'm really worried. After looking only at the outside of the envelope for a long time, Avinox was now carefully opening the envelope and reading the letter. It was to be careful not to tear any part of it. It's a match made in heaven. I shook my head and gave Avinox time to read all of Lorraine's letters in peace. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. In front of the Empress' palace. The Empress is waiting. Let's get in. Sarah said as the slowing carriage Sarah said as the slowing train urging Lorraine urging Lorraine. Oh. Well, mother, Lorraine, who had been hesitating all the time in the carriage, squeezed the last courage, thinking that she should not delay any longer. What's the matter, Lorraine? Due to Lorraine's unusual attitude, Sarah closed the carriage door, which had been opened by the royal court servant. I have something to tell you. Lorraine clasped the hem of her dress, unable to hide her anxious gaze. That'll leave a mark on the dress. Sarah snapped Lorraine's hand aside. Tell me. Well, I don't want a political marriage. Please reconsider, mother, Lorraine said in a trembling voice. She didn't bring up Vavenox because she was afraid he'd got caught up. The one who was talking about marriage was the first prince. Lorraine, don't you know that? What you want to do and what you have to do are different things. I'm well aware of that, but sometimes I think there's something precious that I can't give up for my duty. A precious thing you can't give up? Cyril tilted his head. What is more important than marrying the first prince and fulfilling your duties? Happiness. If I marry the first prince, I will never be happy, mother. Please reconsider. Lorraine, who has a timid personality, poured out a lot of the energy she had been holding back. At a glance, her shoulders could be seen shaking, but Cyril clicked her tongue small. Lorraine, yes, mother. The higher the nobility, the more he has and the more he has to enjoy. The more political marriage is a part of his life from the moment he was born. At first glance, Cyril spoke in a friendly voice, exhorting Lorraine. Everyone goes through this process. It was the same for me, so stop being so stubborn. Lorraine, who was still listening, looked at Cyril with big eyes and asked, Is that why you're happy now? What? You married my father to fulfill your duty. So is my mother happy? Cyril was silent for a moment. She was just staring at her daughter with a face that was hard to guess inside. With that heavy silence, Lorraine felt suffocated at any momentarily. Although it was spat out, she was half sincere. She has never seen her mother and father and thought they looked happy. After a long silence, Cyril slowly reached for Lorraine. Lorraine, who instinctively shrugged, flinched at the touch of her head. Lorraine, go after power, not love. That's always the answer, my tender, innocent daughter, Cyril said in a sweet voice as if singing a lullaby. That's the best advice your mother can offer. But mother, I don't want power. Lorraine appealed. I'm not greedy for that. The future I want is to share a peaceful daily life with someone I love. Sounds immature. Cyril cut off the words. The peaceful routine you want is nothing without power, Lorraine. You may resent me now, but please know that I'm making the best choice for you. The best choice? The opponent is a prince. One day he will be the crown prince. Wouldn't it be better to see your family here all the time than to marry into a suitable powerhouse far from the center? But that's sincerely, I have no desire to marry the first prince. That's strange, Lorraine. Cyril's eyes glared coldly at Lorraine. Have you, by any chance, been seeing anyone behind our back? Oh no, it's not like that. Lorraine jumped, waving her hands, but that couldn't stop the blushing face. Cyril's eyes narrowed. You'd better clean it up quickly if you have one. Keep in mind that the person you will marry in the future is Astana, who will soon become the crown prince. I want you to behave yourself. Eventually, Lorraine grabbed Cyril's hem and said as if pleading, Mother, I really don't want to get married. But Cyril's reaction was cold. Rather, she stared at her for a while, as if trying to pierce her daughter's heart, and said, No, from today on, you must not leave the Lombardi mansion alone, Lorraine. Oh no, mother. Why? There's a banquet where I've already replied that I'm going to attend, and there's a book club. From now on, you're busy preparing for the wedding, so you won't have time to go to such a meeting. And if rumors spread about marriage, everyone will understand if you can't attend the banquet. He is the future crown prince. Cyril smiled satisfactorily, just by imagining it. But soon, she returned with a stern face and told Lorraine. When you go outside the mansion in the future, you will need my permission and I'll accompany you in most things. Did you understand, Lorraine? If this happens, she can't meet Avenox. Lorraine lowered her head to hide her tearful face. Come on, Lorraine. Cyril pushed hard. Yes, mother. Lorraine had no choice but to answer like that. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Emperor's office. After the conference, Lulak was waiting in the Emperor's office at Jovaine's request. Whoa, Lulak let out a low sigh as he rubbed his sore eyes in the aftermath of a long meeting. He was realizing this over time this year. Now the work of the Lord itself is coming as a physical burden. Is it time for me to step it down? Lulak muttered with a bitter smile. Then Juvain came into the office. Oh, you're here first. The Emperor strode up and took the liquor out of the cupboard, and he poured 2 drinks himself without calling the servant. Would you like a drink? Juvain said, putting down a glass in front of Lulak. Lulak stared at the golden liquid in the crystal glass and asked, It's the first time in decades that I've been in and out of your office that you've offered me a drink like this, Your Majesty. Well, I see. I was mean. I saved a drink for the Lord of Lombardy. It's no use doing this because of the iron mines. Think about the other side if you are just want Think about the other side if you are just want to make some money. Lombardy will help you. Well, you're saying you can't give up the mine at all. Javanes asked, looking at Lulak with sharp eyes. Sadly so, Your Majesty. There's a high risk of a market crash. In Lulak's response, Jovains took a big sip and nodded. It was an attitude that seemed convincing at first glance. By the way, I didn't ask to see you because of the mine. Jovains said as if he had taken a step back. At the moment, Lulak narrowed the eyebrow. It wasn't Emperor Jovains to back down so easily. It was Jovains who have a strong obsession with money more than anyone else. There must be something. There must be something, and Lulak could see exactly why. I called you here to tell you that I have decided to bring Viz's daughter, Lorraine, as a Stannis mate. End of chapter 166. Chapter 167. Lulak's eyebrows rose upwards as if surprised. Looking at the figure, Jovain swallowed the accusation. The first time the Empress suggested it, it was fine. He wasn't interested in Astana's wedding in Lombardy. It was also awkward to deal with Lulak, but on reflection, it wasn't such a bad thing. No, he liked it. This old arrogant Lulak granddaughter becomes a daughter-in-law. Lombardy is also of indisputable noble blood, which will greatly help maintain the royal lineage. For once, Jovains agreed that the Empress had come up For once, Jovains agreed that the Empress had come up with a pretty useful idea. It's worth being greedy for. That's how the Emperor judged it. If you give me something else as a condition that prevents marriage, I wouldn't know again. He is here today to see Lulak is willing to make a deal. If he is here today to see if he is here today to see if Lulak is willing to make a deal. Jovains asked, trying to sip a smile from his face. I guess you didn't know about the marriage because you were surprised. Above all, it was very fun to get on Lulak's nerves. You look very surprised. No, I've heard about my granddaughter's marriage. Sitting in a comfortable position, Lulak shook his head and said, I didn't expect you to seriously consider it. Consider it. Oh my god. Lulak laughed as if he was surprised and dumbfounded. I can guess whose idea it is. There's no way your majesty would be interested in this sort of thing. Lulak's voice sank low. The reason you're saying this is because you're trying to get something out of Lombardy on the pretext of my granddaughter's marriage. The eyebrow of Emperor Jovains was twitching a little. It was an unpleasant feeling from the fact that all his thoughts were read. Talks with Lulak Lombardy are always like this. It was the same when Jovains had just become emperor, and now he was middle-aged. Staring into the frowning eyes of Jovains, Lulak slowly rose from his seat. It was a great attempt to weigh Lombardy and Angenas in both hands. I'll compliment you. But Lulak shook his head slowly as if warning. Not my blood, your majesty. My blood is not a deal. Lulak's brown eyes glowed coldly, and left a message before leaving the emperor's office. Don't be swayed by the empress's words, and do anything you'll regret later, your majesty. Lulak walks out slowly. Jovains, who was left alone, drank liquid. He couldn't stand Lulak's rude attitude, but there wasn't even a sharp move. It was long ago realized that the emperor of the Lambru Empire did not stand above everyone else. Empress Rubini came to the emperor, who was grinding his teeth all by himself. How did it go? Jovains was even more annoyed by the empress, who already knew and pretended not to know. Instead of answering, the empress said that she was sorry for the sight of the emperor drinking another sip of liquor. Oh my god, Lombardy has angered you again, the insolent one who doesn't know the imperial fear. The empress had a knack for reading exactly what the other person wanted to hear. Even now, with a few of those words, Jovains felt his irritation toward the empress disappeared. Push on this opportunity, your majesty. Astana's marriage could be a turning point for your majesty's relationship with Lombardy. A turning point? Think about it. Lombardy can't be as arrogant as they are now, when his granddaughter is in the imperial family. Indeed, he is strict when it came to his blood. Jovains murmured, recalling the eyes shining blue, saying, my blood is not the subject of a deal just a moment ago. There will be a backlash, but it's all about marriage. In addition, Saral and Viz Lombardy have already agreed to their daughter's marriage. There is no reason for the Lord of Lombardy to stand strong. The Empress smiled inwardly at the Emperor. It was too easy to sway an angry emperor with a crushed ego, but Rabina's face hardened at the emperor's next word. So what will the empress give me if I push ahead with this marriage? Yes? Yeah, I think I'd be fine with Anjana's iron mine for the West River. This time, Empress Rabini winced greatly. Her body could be seen shaking at a glance. In the name of the Baraport family, the mine they bought more than a decade ago, stealing from Lombardy through Viz Lombardy. Your Majesty, it's just a little shot. Don't lie to me that it's just a coal mine, Empress. I don't want to be mad at you today. Jovain said with a smiling face. The corners of the Empress's mouth trembled slightly. The mine, which the Emperor refers to, was secretly bought by Angenas in the name of Baraport about a decade ago. Angenas had no royal permission to own an iron mine, so they couldn't tap it was inevitable. The mine, which is no longer mining coal and contains only a little iron ore underneath it, was being forgotten even in Rabini's memory. Rabini looked at the Emperor. Though not unusually intelligent or learned, Jovains was smarter than anyone else in his profit or loss, just like right now. Since when have you known about the iron mine? The Empress was horrified by the still smiling face of Jovains. What do you say? If Astana could marry Lombardy's lady, it wouldn't be such a loss to Angenas. Empress Rubini regained her composure and began to calculate the unstable finances of Angenas now, the dowry of Lorraine Lombardy promised by Saral, and the benefits of it in the future. And she nodded. I'll give it to you, your majesty. That's very nice. Jovain smiled with satisfaction. Tomorrow, turn the mine to the name of the Red Top. I want to start mining right now. Emperor Jovains was quite excited. The presence of the Empress sitting next to him was already beyond his interest. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Here you are, Lord. John the butler, who greeted Lulak, who returned from the palace, immediately noticed something unusual. The atmosphere of Lulak getting off the carriage was terrifying. Sure enough. Call Viz. Lulak, who left only that brief message, went into the office by himself. Did you call me, father? After a while, Viz came into the office, as if he already knew the reason he was summoned. Viz stood still without sitting on a chair. Viz. Yes, father. Let the marriage of Lorraine and the first prince never happened. I can't do that. Aren't you going against my orders now? Lulak's eyes became fierce. But Viz also stood up. Lorraine is my daughter. Yes, but the original family marriage must follow the will of the household lord. Don't forget that you and Cyril's marriage were also the will of your predecessor. If it had been Lulak's choice, it would never have happened to tie Viz to Angenas. I just made the best choice for Lorraine. It's definitely a great opportunity to be a member of the royal family. A great opportunity? Lulak slammed down the desk. Speak straight, Viz. It's a chance for you, not for Lorraine. Don't you know who Astana is? You mean that's the best for your child? Lulak was more furious than ever. Viz has made many small and big mistakes, but this time, Lulak has never been more furious. I have overlooked your faults because you are Lombardy and my blood. However, even if you are, I will not allow you to benefit from the sacrifice of your child. Last warning, Viz. Lulak's gaze gave him a chill. However, Viz gritted his teeth and turned around and left the office. It was already warned by the Empress. His father's position will be severe. But there was also a promise that if Viz held out, Lorraine and the first prince marriage would take place. Last warning, Viz. The words his father rang like thunder in his ears, but Viz tried to shake off his fear. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Ballot Corporation's office. Clarivan and Violet's reports are over. I asked two people to organize the documents. When is the next cruise scheduled? 3 days later. It departs from Cheshire Port. Clarivan replied, oh, of all things. Then what's next? This time, Violet said, the newly introduced ship is getting ready for the last-minute preparation. The scheduled departure date is in 10 days. If it's 10 days, maybe that's enough. What's wrong, Lady Florentia? I might have to pick up a special guest on the cruise. I'll explain the details later. I smiled at Violet and Clarivan, who looked at me curiously and then hurried out of the pellet office. I have a special schedule today. I hurried back to Lombardi's mansion. Then, first, the person who was waiting for me welcomed me. Here you are, Lady Florentia. It was Avenox, dressed up in great style. I looked at such Avenox and asked, are you ready, Sir Avenox? Avenox smiled and nodded at my question. What about the ring? Here it is, Avenox replied, tapping the packet inside his chest. End of chapter 167. Chapter 168. Avenox's appearance, who was dressed more stylishly today, was even meaningful. Me and Avenox took a short walk through crowded places like last time, and immediately headed to Lorraine's greenhouse. I don't know if he noticed something. Lorraine was unable to travel freely outside the mansion because of Cyril, but fortunately there were no restrictions inside the mansion. I decided to use it to help two people a little today. I've already told Lorraine to meet me here. Oh, there she is. Lorraine. Avenox met her sadly. When she was in the greenhouse, she was always growing flowers in a shiny way. But today was different. It was so sad to see her sitting helplessly on the greenhouse chair. Then I'll get going. No, Avenox caught me trying to turn around to give Lorraine and Avenox time alone. Please be our witness, Lady Florentia. Avenox, who still looks nervous, told me with a smile on his face. If Lorraine accepts my proposal, I plan to send the proposal in the name of Lumen to Lorraine's father and the Lombardi family. I have already got my father's permission. In short, he said he would follow the marriage course of the aristocrats. I can't believe he has already got the Lord of Lumen's permission. He has made up his mind and pushed ahead with it. It's a little late, but I still have a chance because the imperial family hasn't sent a formal proposal or made an official announcement. Avenox clenched while saying so. Of course, it's about when Lorraine accepted my proposal. Then he goes back to tense mode. I patted Avenox on the shoulder and said, okay, I'll be happy to be your witnesses. Thank you. Let's go then. Avenox, who began walking as if he would speak due to tension, took the lead and opened the greenhouse door. Oh, I'm nervous too. Sir Avenox, Lorraine called Avenox in a trembling voice as if she could not believe her eyes. Avenox approached Lorraine and asked in a friendly voice, your face looks a little swollen. Are you all right? I'm fine. You didn't reply to my letter, so I was wondering if Sir Avenox was okay. Lorraine's words were cut off. It was because Avenox slowly fell on one knee. Oh, Sir Avenox, Lady Lorraine Lombardi. My courage was too late. Avenox opened the small box of rings he had taken out of his arms and held it out in front of Lorraine. Will you marry me? There was a moment of silence. Avenox with the ring held his breath. I held my breath from the back so as not to disturb as much as possible. Then I heard a little noise. Hicks. It was the sound of tears falling from Lorraine's eyes. Oh, Sir Avenox. Lorraine clasped his hands and looked at Avenox, and Lorraine smiled broadly with a smile on her pretty face. Ah, Sir Avenox. It was just when Lorraine finally accepted the proposal. Dang! The greenhouse door opened with a loud noise. Oh, Father! What are you doing, Lorraine? It was Vise who jumped in. The first to respond was Avenox, standing in the way of protecting Lorraine. Lord Lombardi, listen to me for a moment. Then Vise's eyes caught fire more. He mumbled while glaring at the strange man who seemed to protect his daughter, who had an important marriage. Your face, I've definitely seen somewhere. By any chance, Luman? After finding out who Avenox was, this was even more distorted. The Eastern Lumen was known to be a family that openly supported Perez. Lignite Lumen was close to Perez at the academy. Perez helped the East receive trade subsidies, and Lumen volunteered to follow him on Ivan's last trip. What are you doing, young Lord Lumen? Vis, who shouted out loud, slapped the ring on Avenox's hand away. Here, the ringbacks that Avenox cherished in his heart lay on the greenhouse floor. Looking at it, Avenox said in a calm voice, I'm sorry I didn't greet you in advance, but Lorraine and I have been dating, and our Lumen family is about to formally send a proposal to Lombardi. I know there's a marriage coming and going, but please consider. Look, young Lord Lumen, he said threateningly. Do you know who my daughter is going to marry? I know. Do you know that the Lumen family, who somehow tries to push his foot into the center of the empire, will turn the imperial family against him now? I'm prepared for Lady Lorraine. Oh, Sir Avenox. Lorraine shook her head in tears again. Vis spoke up to Lorraine like that. Has you thought it or not? Even if you act rashly, there are limits. If you act so immature, not only you but also the Lumen family will be in big trouble, Lorraine. Oh, Lorraine dropped her head. I'll pretend I didn't see you today, young Lord Lumen. Vis grabbed Lorraine's arm as he spoke with a vicious tongue. Stop it. Avenox grabbed Vis's hand as if he were about to break it. However, please let me go, Sir Avenox, Lorraine said in a low voice. Lady Lorraine. Avenox looked at Lorraine's arm that was held in Vis's hand painfully, as if he were hurt. However, when Lorraine shook her head again, Avenox's hand that holding V's was loosened. Let's go, Lorraine. Viz immediately grabbed Lorraine as if he didn't want to stay here for another second. Lorraine, caught in the hand, was just dragged out of control, and Viz found me standing at the door. Slap. Without time to avoid it, my face turned sideways. Tia, Lady Florentia, Avenox and Lorraine shock. I could feel my lips bursting and blood flowing down. As I quietly touched the corners of my mouth, Viz spit at my feet. Dirty girl, how dare you ruin my daughter's future? Viz then gasped as if his anger had not been resolved. However, he hurried out of the greenhouse with Lorraine as if he was afraid to see the situation. Are you all right, Lady Florentia? Avinox hurried up and looked at me. I pushed the hand slightly, spitting blood in my mouth to the floor. In fact, I've been slapped countless times, so there's no big blow. This is not the point right now, I asked, staring straight at Avinox. What are you going to do? Lorraine certainly accepted my proposal. Avinox answered immediately and picked up a box of rings that had fallen on the floor. Now she's my fiancée. I'm not giving up. It's hard to think that he's the usual naive Avinox. It was sparkling eyes. I like it a little now. That's the only way to protect Lorraine, I said, taking a ring box from Avinox's hand. I'll deliver this. Avinox seemed puzzled but soon nodded. Believe in me, I closed the box after confirming that the ring was safe. The top sounds cheerfully in my hand. Do you think I'm gonna give up on this? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The conference room of the Imperial Palace. The conference between the Emperor and the aristocracy was coming to an end. It was a normal meeting, nothing special. But Juvains said to the nobles, who were slowly getting ready to leave the conference, I have something to announce. Eventually, the nobles sat back in their seats. Having confirmed that they were all seated, Emperor Jovains looked at Lulac Lombardi for the last time and said with a smug smile, I, Jovains, are to inform the lords that I have decided to accept Lorraine Lombardi, the daughter of Viz Lombardi, as a mate to the first prince, Astana. It was a light tone and normal facial expression, as if telling a joke, but the repercussions were not small. Gasp. Lombardi. Those who didn't hear the rumors were appalled. The rumor was true. Lombardi and the royal family. Those who knew the rumor shook their heads. I do not doubt that this decision will bring more complete peace and well-being to the Lambru Empire. Now the nobles were all looking at one place. It was Lulac Lombardi staring at the emperor with a stiff face. Curiosity flashed across people's faces in such a different reaction from Jovains, who smirked cheekily. Wasn't the talk already over? Is that a one-sided announcement? Lord of Lombardi, whom the nobles knew, was never a man who wanted to be entangled in marriage with the imperial family. Sure enough, Lulac Lombardi lifted himself from the seat and spoke in a low voice to the emperor. I refuse. Oh, he says no. A bigger echo swept the conference than when Jovains announced the marriage. Well, isn't that dangerous? I can't believe he turned down the royal wedding. If it was a general noble family, not Lombardi, there would be nothing to say even if it was taken here for the crime of disobedience. Are you going against my orders now, Lombardi? Emperor Jovains asked, staring coldly at Lulac, but Lulac didn't bat an eye. Rather, he looked at the emperor face to face and said, clearly, as if to declare, Lombardi refuses to marry the royal family. In addition, Lulac turned his back and walked out of the conference room. It was impossible to leave the conference before the emperor formally declaring the meeting closed. When Lulac grabbed the doorknob in the conference room, Jovains shouted angrily, If you open the door now, you will never set foot in the capital again, Lombardi. He meant to impose the Golden Order. It was the land of the emperor and one of the most feared punishments of the central aristocracy, which prevented them from entering the emperor's provinces, where important issues such as meetings and conventions took place. Upon hearing the shout, Lulac looked back at Jovains, raising one corner of his mouth, smirked. Golden Order. It was already a punishment given to Lulac once by Jovains' father, the former emperor, and after 20 years of fighting for power, the former emperor had to withdraw the Golden Order with his own hands. Lulac bowed slightly to Jovains and said, Do as you wish. The Lord of Lombardi. Jovains' voice was heard behind his back, but Lulac did not care and walked proudly out of the conference room, pushing away the huge door vigorously. End of chapter 168. Chapter 169. Eventually, Lorraine was locked up in her room. At first, they asked for the cooperation of the Lombardi Knight and wanted them to protect the door, but they were firmly rejected. Now, Sarah, Viz, and Belsac take turns guarding the door. I went and said that I wanted to see Lorraine, but I had to be kicked out with only Sarah's scornful gaze. But do you think I will give up? I leaned against the window of my room and looked at the darkened evening sky, and gradually the stars appeared one by one, and it was close to night. Creak, the sound of the iron gate of the mansion across the garden closing was heard in the distance. Now, that door won't open until dawn unless something special happens. No one can enter or leave the mansion. Of course, V's family, who are aware of the fact, will have no choice but to loosen their guard. It's late again, so he might have just fallen asleep, guarding the door. Time's up, I realized before I knew it was almost time and went outside. The trees in the small forest next to the annex seemed to sing a past song along with the wind. And when the song subsides, For a while, Tia, Perez walked out of the dark forest. The walls of the Lombardi mansion are high, and the Lombardi knights and soldiers are guarding it without a hitch. It was meaningless in front of Perez, who exceeded human limits in many ways, like dealing with aura. What happened? You asked me to meet you first. Perez immediately grabbed my hand and kissed the back of my hand. It's almost 2 months. Now, Perez, I think you've returned to the capital. In the meantime, Perez was away to the south. Maybe he went to take care of something. After pausing at my words, Perez regained his smile after a while. Yes, Tia, you did. I forgot for a moment. I'm still adjusting. It's already been 3 months since Perez found out who I am as the owner of Pellet Corporation. But every time the memories of that time come to mind, Perez seemed so surprised and delighted again. But why did you call me today, Tia? I'm glad to see you. I don't think there's anything going on. Perez, who was approaching me, stopped talking. Lips. Perez's gaze touched my lips, which had burst from being slapped by V's, and the wind blew. Until just a moment ago, trees, which had been dancing pleasantly in the wind, began to hum and shaking threateningly. It was because of the heavy wave that spread around Perez. In the meantime, I could see that it was quiet around me. Who is it, Tia? At first glance, his friendly voice was imbued with anger. Perez's pupil color was also slightly different than usual. Who did hurt you? Perez said with a frown, as if he was in more pain. I shook my head at such a Perez. Put down your energy. With my words, the power to suppress the surroundings disappeared like a lie. Clap. The birds, unable to escape, were finally seen flying far away from the tree. It doesn't matter who hurt me, Perez. Why it doesn't matter? Perez seemed unhappy for not being told, and his eyes were still sharp, looking at my swollen lips. But he nodded gently. How did that happen? In fact, a few days ago, I gave Perez a summary of what had happened, and added at the end, that's why I need you, Perez. Ah, Perez blinked for a moment at my words and smiled. The scent of the forest is as deep as a smile that appears. Why are you smiling like that? I'm glad. I mean, Tia needs me. You're so... I shut up, trying to scold Perez out of habit. I'm the one who's asking Perez for a favor. I can't do this. I nodded and walked in the lead and said, I don't think it's that difficult for you. I need your help first, Perez. Anything. Dude, he's totally excited. I started walking through the forest with Perez. It was a road where the guards who were walking around on time didn't travel here, and where we were headed was the main building. Standing face to face with Perez in the dark shade, I said in a small voice, Put me up there. Perez looked up along the tip of my finger. Perez? Terrace? Yeah, that one on the third floor. Lorraine's Lombardi's room. As expected, Perez got it right away. I nodded. Are you going to be okay? What? It must be scary, although it is said to be on the third floor, but the ceiling is high, so the fourth floor of an ordinary building is more suitable. But it's not that scary. I trust you, Perez. That's a piece of cake for you, isn't it? Perez smiled and liked it, then tilted his head slightly towards me and asked, If you tell me who did it, well, he's not going to just do a favor. Bees Lombardi. Of, But don't harm bees. I saw a sharp light flash through Perez's eyes as I gave an answer and quickly spoke firmly, because that's my job. After staring at me for a while, Perez soon reached out to me. Let me hug you. With his short words, my body was so easily lifted, and I sat on Perez's arms. Perez's arm muscles, which are as hard as stones under my legs and hips, were felt intact. I put my arm around Perez's neck and put my face on his neck. I'm not doing this because I'm scared. I just don't like heights. Scary things are different from dislike things. Through the body in contact. Through the body in contact, I heard Perez laugh, and when I feel that one of Perez's arms holds my body tighter, whoosh, tap, tap, clap. That was all. In the end, there was no feeling of running, other than the thick and belated wind caught up with us and messed up our hair once. You can open your eyes. As I slowly lifted my head to Perez's slow voice, we were standing on the terrace I pointed at a moment ago. I think there's only Lorraine Lombardi alone inside. You're so witty. Perez read the signs and told me with a keen of his five senses, You wait here for a second. I'll be right back. Perez nodded silently at my words. Then he sits on his butt on a railing in the corner where there is no light and looks at me. He listened well and looked like I'm seeing a gentle puppy, so I smiled at Perez once and knocked on the window. Knock knock. Shortly after the sound, a startled faced Lorraine opened the window. Tia? Lorraine, who was looking at me in a very low voice, seemed to grasp the situation roughly when she saw Perez sitting quietly in the back. Lorraine, who quickly stepped inside, bowed slightly to Perez, who was sitting there with an expressionless face, and closed the door. Tia, your face. Lorraine was speechless when she saw my lips and swollen cheeks. Tears gathered again in already swollen eyes. I'm sorry, because of me. Lorraine held my hand tightly. Because of me, neither Tia, nor Sir Avinox, nor Lumen family. No, it's weird for a second. Me and Avinox were treated badly by these, but suddenly Lumen family. What's wrong with the Lumen family? My father here. A little while ago, this will make the Lumen family in a lot of trouble. Maybe the subsidy to the east will be cut off. Vis, you evil son. At the very least, you're threatening your daughter now. That is blackmail too. The Lumen family subsidies will not be cut off so easily, but the pure Lorraine would have believed it straight away. And she'd be sitting alone in this dark room, trembling with fear, blaming herself for fear that she would cause great trouble for Avenox and Avenox family. Everything I've been greedy for. Lorraine, who murmured like that, looked somewhat precarious. At that moment, I remembered Lorraine lying down as if she were asleep, loving the wrong people as parents, closed her eyes too early in return for obedience. Lorraine, who withered like a flower in her hand. I put the box of Avenox's proposal ring in Lorraine's hand. This is Lorraine's eyes shook when she saw the engagement ring that she had never even put on her finger. When a careful hand took out the pearl ring, a bright light flowed in the moonlight. Lorraine couldn't take her eyes off the beautiful jewel for a moment, and she carefully put the ring on her finger. The ring fits perfectly as if it were made in this world for Lorraine. Yeah, it's Lorraine. It looks a lot better on you than become withered flowers, I said, brushing Lorraine's tangled hair slightly with my fingers. Sir Avenox asked me to tell you he'll be waiting. Ah, thick tears dripped from Lorraine's eyes. Listen, Lorraine. I prepared a way to leave this place. To leave? How? Yes, how to go to a place where both Lorraine and Avenox can be happy together. But Lorraine soon spoke painfully as if giving up. But there are so many people who will get hurt when I go away like that, Tia. Tia, who helped me right now, too. And if I run away, Lombardi and Luman, don't worry about that. If Lorraine lives here with Avenox, no one will get hurt. Take my word for it, Lorraine. Tia, so now, think only Lorraine's own happiness and make a decision. You're still thinking about it, right? Well, that's... Lorraine bowed her head. There's no way she's going to leave Avenox right now. To do so, Lorraine adores Vis, Serral, and Belsac. Even at this moment, when she's forced to make the most important choice in life, she can't willingly abandon them. I couldn't understand how to love someone like Vis and Serral, but they're still her parents. And Lorraine, she's nice. I understand the situation of not being able to leave, running away holding Avenox's hand. I comforted Lorraine's shoulders. Loving your parents and your brother, it's not a bad thing to want to do something that makes them happy. Lorraine's big eyes look up at me. But the most important thing is Lorraine's own happiness. So it's up to you. What are you going to do? What would Tia do if you were me? If it was me, I didn't even think this far. I would have turned the house upside down and ripped all the mouths of those who urged me to marry Astana, to ruin someone's life. But that word is too harsh for Lorraine. I shook my head and replied, Lorraine is not me. Such a question is not very meaningful, but I know this one for sure. Looking straight into Lorraine's pretty eyes, I said, Lorraine's family isn't the one who will appreciate your patience and sacrifice. Lorraine's long eyelashes trembled. Maybe she knew it herself. So you don't have to sacrifice for your family anymore, Lorraine. I got up from my seat, leaving that word. Let's get out of here before we get caught. I'm sorry, but we don't have much time, Lorraine. Just 5 days from now, you have to decide in it. 5 days. Lorraine nodded. As I went to the terrace where Perez was waiting, several flower pots on the table came into my eyes. Among them, I liked the red flowers that bloomed straight and were colorful the most. Unlike other things that bloomed against the support due to their weak, self-supporting power, the red flower is raising its head straight toward the sky with its own strength. I pointed it out and said, if you feel like it in 5 days, put that pot out of the window, then I'll take care of the rest. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. A letter from Emperor Jovanes arrived at Lulak's office. I will give the Lord of Lombardy 3 days. Agree to the marriage between the imperial family and Lombardy in time. If he does not obey the imperial mandate, Lulak Lombardy is subject to a golden order. Also, the golden order is cancelled only when the marriage is concluded. End of chapter 169. Chapter 170. You use a dragon. Or use so much effort. Lulak looked at Shananeth, who was sitting across from him, pushing the Emperor's letter aside as if it was annoying. So there's an update on the mine? Yes, father. Shananeth presented a small letter to Lulak that arrived at the Lombardy mine a little while ago. The Baraport coal mine has resumed work that had stopped. The mine was clearly said to be dry. Yes, I think it's... He is starting to knock on the iron mines underneath. Lulak shook his head and asked, the owner have changed, haven't he? Application documents have been received from Baraport family and Janus Vassal family to transfer the owner to the Red Top. I guess so. In the office of Lombardy's mansion, he learned information about coal mines in the middle and south of the empire and what was happening at the capital. Lulak showed no signs of surprise. This was the power of the Lombardy scholarship. Jovanes made this fuss to get that iron ore from the Empress. Or maybe he had a sense of pride too. Lulak grinned and muttered. I must have looked funny, Shananeth. The Emperor has not been very intelligent since he was a child. Shananeth also spoke bitterly. He doesn't know what Vis believed in doing this. But he was very angry that Lorraine, who was innocent, caught in conflict between the imperial family, Lombardy, and Anjanus. The Lumen family must have sent you a formal proposal, Shananeth said when she saw another envelope next to the Emperor's letter. The signature, Avinox Lumen, Deputy Lord, was written in elegant writing. I intend to deal with the proposal of Lumen family as not receiving it, but Lulak said, throwing it into the fireplace. Lombardy can withstand imperial pressure, but Luman can't. Although the Cheshire port has opened its doors, it is still far from being incorporated into the central power without the help of the imperial family. He seemed to have sent me a proposal for that situation too. The proposal sent by Avinax Lumen quickly became ashes and disappeared. First of all, settle this stupid dispute with the imperial family. Lulak's words darkened Shannonet's expression complexion. Her father said lightly that it was a stupid dispute, but when Lombardy and the imperial family had an argument, 20 years had passed. It would take a long time. Would a child as soft as Lorraine endure that time? Shannon thought unconsciously. It would be nice if young Lord Luman took Lorraine and escaped to the east. If that was the case, it might be easier to just dismiss the young people's childish behavior and take their side. Shannon shook her head in surprise at her own thought. Then a knock was heard in the office and several people came in. Did you call, Lord? They were the vassals of the Lombardy family, including the Lord Vilkay and Devon. Ah, everyone is here. Noticing that a state meeting had been called, Shannonet quietly greeted them and walked out of the office. I think everyone knows why we're here today. The lords nodded at Lulak's words. Ah, some people frowned as if they were offended by the emperor. Give me orders, lord. I'll do anything. Romasi Dillard from Lombardy Stop said in a firm voice. Today, I received a letter from the palace. He gave me 3 days to agree to an imperial marriage with Lombardy. Otherwise, he'll give me a golden order. Oh my god, I think we've been too quiet lately. Such a threat to the lord. The opponent was the emperor, but the vassals were not hesitant. Lombardy's vassals were nobles of the empire, but they served Lord of Lombardy like an emperor, not the imperial family, so it was natural in a way. So I'm going to let him regret giving me 3 days. Lulak was the first to look at Romasi Dillard and say, 3 days later, from the moment my golden order was issued, Lombardy stock will be withdrawn from the capital. 9 out of 10 goods flowing into the capital were from the Lombardy top. If Lombardy stock was closed immediately, the capital would be paralyzed. Lord Devon, yes, Lord, replied Clang Devon, who runs Lombardy Transport and Courier. The same goes for Devons. Also notify the tops who have relied on Lombardy traffic in the meantime. Route through the capital who can no longer cooperate. Yes, sir. Lombardy strike was a way to affect not only the capital but also the entire continent. And Vilkay, at Lulak's call, Lemibao Vilkay of Lombardy Construction bowed his head. How many sites are in progress in the capital? 22. Stop everything. Yes, Lord. It was all aristocrats who placed orders for Lombardy construction. Lombardy's pressure began on the central aristocrats, who had enough power to build buildings in the capital. If he is still doing this, I will have Lombardy Bank and Scholarship Foundation join you. So be prepared. Yes, Lord. No one has ever argued against it. Rather, they were only happy to contribute to this situation. Thanks to you, we will take a good rest too. I know, I don't know if I should thank you. Haha. Clang Devon and Lemabal Vilke, who are among the younger generations, were even sneaky, Lolak said to himself, watching the lords burst into laughter at their jokes. I wonder how far that pride will go. Well, no, when action starts to take place. Why Jovanes was able to push this far and what the Emperor's next move would be. 3 days later, eventually, a golden order was issued for Lombardy. Upon hearing the news, the nobles were all kept silent that this would be a long-term battle. In the end, many people wondered if the marriage would be concluded in a good way. In the first place, most of the people who couldn't understand that this big deal had happened because of the Vice Lombardy's daughter marriage. But as if waiting, Lombardy's counterattack come. Lombardy's stop was closed in the capital immediately, and Lombardy's construction and Lombardy traffic were also followed. A huge city called Capital, which was well matched, quickly began to break. Screaming also erupted at the top of small and medium-sized businesses that had been commissioning Lombardy traffic. Everyone realized it in a day. Lombardy's enormous influence over the entire empire. Cyril had been telling Lorraine this news since early in the morning. How incredible what you've done. Now you get it, Lorraine? Mother, the soft-hearted Lorraine was shaking greatly as Cyril expected. It was different from how she had been stubbornly silent while taking care of a few pots she had brought from the greenhouse. At this time, V said sternly, what a disgraceful punishment for a nobleman, do you know? And how much damage Lombardy is taking with this move. Lorraine couldn't raise her head. As the family said, it all seemed to be her fault. She looked up carefully and looked at her younger brother, Belsac, but all he could do was look cold. Am I really doing such a big mistake? I was just wanted to marry someone I love. I just want to live happily ever after. However, it was in no time that the mindset that had been firmly determined was shaken. If the first prince becomes crown prince in the future, you will be the crown princess, Lorraine. And when the time comes, you'll be the empress of this Lambru empire. Why do you dislike the marriage that other aristocrats want to occupy at all costs? Cyril said as if she was frustrated. What the hell is so good about that Luman countryman? There was nothing better than His Highness First Prince except for his smooth face. shouted Balzac in an impulsive voice. I mean, when she thought of Avenox, tears quickly formed in Lorraine's eyes. Even at this moment, Lorraine missed Avenox. That friendly smile, that caring touch. Nothing was scary by Avenox's side, and it felt as if it was breathing. But maybe it was too much happiness for me. Lorraine laughed bitterly, and as if she had read the mind, Viz said, young Lord Luman seems to be in a lot of trouble too. Apparently, he doesn't show up at social gatherings anymore, and he doesn't come out of the mansion. It's all because he can't raise his head. I'd do the same if only my love affair had overturned the whole empire. I would be ashamed and embarrassed to return to the east. Belsac clicked his tongue. Eventually tears dripped from Lorraine's eyes. Cyril stroked Lorraine's head fondly and said, how many nobles are married in love, Lorraine? But wouldn't you be a little less lonely if it's not far from the Lombardy estate, but a palace where your family can always come and go? But, moreover, the Empress is my cousin, and she will be as good to you as her own daughter. How many times have you promised? This marriage will make us all a real family. The sweet words made Lorraine's heart throb once again. My mother is really worried about me. If so, wouldn't mother would understand my mind a little bit if I told her how nice Sir Avenox is to me? Such a hope also sprang up. Lorraine managed to speak in a very small voice. Mother, but I like Sir Avenox. Ah, really? Belsac leapt out of his seat and screamed, and rebuked at Lorraine. How long are you going to be like this? Belsac, can't you see the situation? If only sisters sacrificed now, everyone will be happy. What? Lorraine's voice trembled when she doubted her ears. He used to be mean to others, but still showed affection for his sister Lorraine. However, no matter how blind you are to Luman, it's true. When my sister marries His Highness the First Prince, neither our father or our mother nor me, you can achieve whatever you want. What you want? Yeah, but you can't sacrifice that much for your family. That Avenox, even if you are blinded by love than blood. There is a degree. Get a hold of yourself. Lorraine was dazed. It seemed like someone hit her head hard with a very large stone. Slowly, she looked around. Not her father, not her mother. She looked at herself with her mouth shut, seeming to agree with Belsac's opinion. It was as if everyone was saying, you only have to sacrifice yourself. And then she remembered what Tia said. Lorraine's family isn't the one who will appreciate your patience and sacrifice. She hoped that the words would be wrong. But as always, Tia was right. So you don't have to sacrifice for your family anymore, Lorraine. Along with the words hiding over her memory, Lorraine caught a flower pot with red flowers in her eyes, and she nodded. I'll do that. A surprisingly calm voice came out on her own. Mother, I'll follow my father's words. Oh, it's Lorraine. Well thought. Lorraine became more and more convinced by Cyril and Visa's excitement. She was convinced that her choice was right. But give me time to clear my mind about Sir Avenox too. The time? Vis asked impatiently. Yes, it won't take long. It will take a few days. Just give me a few days to think quietly in the room alone, father. Vis glanced at Cyril. Cyril nodded and Vis said as if he couldn't help it. Yes, if that's what you think, I won't disturb you for a few days. What a change of heart, Lorraine. Looking into Vis's eyes, anxious yet unable to hide his joy, Lorraine nodded slowly. Yes, you don't have to worry. Father, today and tomorrow was the last chance for Lorraine to escape safely. Pretending to take a walk passing in front of the window of Lorraine's room, I let I let out a sigh of relief. Oh, thank God. There were red flowers blooming in the window of Lorraine's room. End of chapter 170.